Welcome to Elevate Your Mind, your number one podcast for peak performance strategies that will enhance your mindset, develop your emotional skill set, and maybe, just maybe, be the catalyst to create positive forward momentum in your life. Here's what's to come from today's pod.
People are on a treadmill of life. And what I mean by a treadmill of life is they are constantly pounding the road, pounding the conveyor belt of life, just churning out the miles. And when they're churning out the miles on this treadmill of life, there's demands. There's demands as a parent, there's demands as a worker, there's demands as a partner, there's demands as a son or daughter. Boom, and welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 51 of Elevate Your Mind. A very, very warm welcome to you, whether you've been here before, this is your first time. A huge welcome to you. If you are new to this channel, please please subscribe on YouTube. If you are with me on Spotify, welcome back. Make sure you are following along. We have regular episodes coming, and especially over summer, we've got lots more coming your way. On today's particular episode, are you stuck in the emotional rush? The emotional rush, easy for me to say. And the emotional rush is where so many people find themselves on a regular basis. What is the emotional rush? Well, the emotional rush is the part of life where you just get caught up in it, where you get caught up in the day-to-day demands, challenges, obstacles, adversities of life, to a point where internally your mind is spinning 24/7, non-stop. You see, this particular episode is directly for the types of people who find it hard to switch off. You know, when you sit there at the end of the day and your day is done but your mind still wants to spin, and then it picks up on all of the anxious traits that you may or may not have, or the worries or the fears or the doubts or the overwhelms that you've got going on, and the what about this and the what about that. Yeah, make sure you strap in for this one, because this one's going to hit home. So we're going to get cracking straight away with this particular episode. Are you stuck in the emotional rush? And so the best way to describe this to you is as follows. People are on a treadmill of life. And what I mean by a treadmill of life is they are constantly pounding the road, pounding the conveyor belt of life, just churning out the miles. And when they're churning out the miles on this treadmill of life, there's demands. There's demands as a parent, there's demands as a worker, there's demands as a partner, there's demands as a son or daughter, there's demands as a friend, there's demands in society. So many people want a piece of you. So many situations want a piece of you. And when this happens, we can almost unwittingly train ourselves, and this is what we do. We literally train ourselves to be like the hamster on the hamster wheel. We're just churning it out, this treadmill of life. Up, feed the kids, get ready for school, take them to school, go off to work, have lunch, have that meeting, get home, do the kids' dinner, get prepared for the next day of school, speak to my partner for a little bit, sit there doing mind-numbing things like flicking on social media, go to bed, get up the next day. We get along on the treadmill of life. Now, some people have been stuck in this treadmill of life for the last couple of days, some for the last weeks, some for months, some for years. Some people get stuck on this treadmill of life for lifetimes, by the way. And so what happens is, when people get stuck on this treadmill of life, you condition yourself emotionally. And you condition yourself emotionally to, hear me on this, run at that tempo. And when you're running at that tempo, you become accustomed to always being busy. Being a busy parent, being a busy partner, being a busy worker, being a busy friend, being a busy family member, being a busy member of society. That you condition yourself emotionally to always have something to do, a demand on you, a challenge, an obstacle. For so many of you listening to me right now, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. To a point where sometimes you get a moment to slow down. Because maybe the kids are at school, you've got a bit of time off work, your partner's out, and you have some time for you. And what happens? Your mind is still spinning, thinking of 300 things that it has to do. And in this moment, hear me on this, we get caught up in what I call the emotional rush of life. And when you get caught up in this emotional rush of life, you unwittingly train yourself to develop traits that are going to keep you involved in that rush. Stay with me on this, because this is going to make so much sense to so many of you. And when you train yourself to get caught up in this emotional rush of life, you are constantly looking, searching, finding things that are going to bring more worries, more stresses, more demands into your life, because that's what you've trained yourself to do, not by choice, but by through life's demands. So many of you who might be new parents, I work with so many new parents who have been in this situation, or if you've started a new job, or if you've moved house and there's demands of life, these things often at times they feel overwhelming in a short period of time, but when that lasts for days, weeks, months and years, you just condition yourself to operate in this way. And so what we want to understand here, and what this particular podcast episode is going to be about, albeit I believe that this one's going to be quite short for you, is about understanding how to maintain the calm in and amongst the rush. Because if you look at life, everyone is in a rush. They're in a rush to grow up. They're in a rush to buy a house. They're in a rush to make a certain amount of money. They're in a rush to get that promotion at work. They're in a rush to get married. They're in a rush to get divorced. They're in a rush to move abroad. They're in a rush to buy that car. They're in a rush to get rid of that trait that's hindering them so much. Everyone is always in a rush. And so what happens is we unwittingly train ourselves to have to find those stresses of life that sometimes not even there, but we have to train ourselves, we end up training ourselves to find those things to keep up with this speed that we've intensified. It's like this. If I take it back to the treadmill analogy, we're running at 10 mile an hour on a treadmill. And the treadmill conveyor belt is spinning at 10 mile an hour, and we've trained ourselves to run at that speed. So you know what? We're good. We're used to that. But sometimes that conveyor belt slows down. It goes down to 2-3 mile an hour. But internally, we're still spinning. We're still trying to run at 10 mile an hour. So what we do is we conjure up situations in life to try and speed up things. So I've got more to worry about because I've unwittingly trained myself to always run at this speed. What we need to learn to do is slow that tempo. Slow that tempo of life down in our heads. We must remember life always works inside out, never outside in. You know, I know people who have got demands on them that are incomprehensible. Demands on them as single parents who have to, make rent and work a couple of jobs and feed their kids and do so much that we think, bloody hell. Added to the fact that they're dealing with a health challenge in their family, added to the fact that that job they've just been let go of, added to the fact that their kid's off from school on that day, and when we go through these things, how can that person, this is a person that I know, still remain calm in that situation? How can they do that? Because they understand that life works inside out. You can have 1,001 things going out there. Water never sinks a ship until it gets on board. meaning that the waves can crash against your ship, but if you're solid, if you're calm in stormy seas, it doesn't matter. That environment can be as volatile as it wishes to be. If you don't let the water on board, if you remain calm in stormy seas, it's never going to affect you. And so the point of this particular podcast is not to just tell you, calm down, because that's never going to work, but is to give you an understanding here that some of us are caught up in the emotional rush of life, and through that we are developing the traits that we very hate. So you see, when life is busy, and loads of you will be able to resonate with this, when you're busy, you realise that you can forget about this limiting emotion, this limiting trait, this anxiety, the fear, the worry, the doubt, the OCD, because you're busy doing something, right? That's because internally you're spinning at 10 mile an hour, externally you're spinning at 10 mile an hour. But guess what? When those external demands drop, when the kids go to bed, or when you finish work, or when you stop seeing your partner or your friend or whoever else, and you've got that moment alone, the external now slows down. But internally, you have trained yourself to go at 10 mile an hour. So what happens is you try to find things. And if there's nothing actually externally being demanded of you at that moment in your life, there's not a partner or a child or a work that's demanding you to do so, you find things emotionally. Oh, what's that symptom? Oh, what's that thought? Oh, what's that feeling that's here? Why? Because you try and unwittingly, none of this is conscious, but emotionally speed yourself back up again to get to a place, because that's internally the way that your motor is spinning within you emotionally. Now, those of you who are with me on YouTube now, you can see that I'm being quite animated and using my hands, but those of you listening on Spotify, no doubt you can understand what I'm saying still. Because when your internal motor is spinning at 10 mile an hour, you're always going to find situations to try and speed up life for you, because that is what you've conditioned yourself to do. That is what you've conditioned yourself to do. You know, it's like someone who's always stressed. You probably know this in your life. You probably know a person in your life that no matter if they're behind on their bills or their chips have arrived late at their pub dinner, they always get stressed. You probably know someone who always is angry. There's someone else who's always depressed. Someone else who's always happy. Someone else is always calm. Why? Because they have conditioned that way internally, so no matter what happens externally, they deal with it in that way, for better or for worse. My question is to you, what is it that you're stuck in? Because potentially you're stuck in the emotional rush of life, where if it's a degrading trait, anxiety, fear, worry, doubt, dread, overwhelm, OCD, this might be, I'm not going to say the fundamental, but a contributing factor as to why you're staying stuck there. Because you're constantly fighting a battle that doesn't exist. The battle that you're fighting is internally with yourself to try and speed up life, because you haven't found a way to slow yourself down. This is for once where we use these methodologies potentially like meditation, like breath work, like a peaceful walk with our partner, as a tool to be able to apply it in this nature. Now, like I said to you a moment ago, do I believe it's always the fundamental factor? No. But is it a contributing factor? Yes. And if you are stuck in the emotional rush of life, you're always going to be looking for something to trigger me, something to rile me up, something to give me something to stress about or worry about. You know, I work with people who have got everything they want in life. They've got a lovely partner, they've got lovely kids, they've got a lovely house, they've got a lovely life, lovely family. And they're like, Matt, I haven't got anything going wrong in my life, but I'm constantly battling in my own head. I'm like, okay, why do you think that is? I don't know, you know, I've always been a worrier my whole life, and now I've got nothing to worry about, and I don't. You hear it right there and then. They have trained themselves to be that worrier, be that stressor, be that person who is constantly spinning at 10 mile an hour on that treadmill internally, and life has now slowed down to them to a point where that's all that they know. So when they're busy and they make themselves busy being a great parent, being a great partner, being a great worker, being a great friend, whatever it may be, they can forget about it and they just crack on. But in those moments, they find things to bring them back to the moment. They find things to bring them back to a problem. They find things to bring them back to another demand that's going to speed them up again. And so what this short but sharp episode is about understanding for yourself. Where is it that you get caught up? Because you see, I'm here to tell you that it's not the situations of your life that are making you feel anxious or sad or worried or fretful. It's not. I'll repeat what I said to you previously. A ship only sinks when it allows waters on board. And so it's not the situations of life that are making you feel a certain way. It's the way that you're approaching the situations of life. Because if you found a way within you to train yourself, and it's like a muscle, it's like going down the gym and training a muscle. If you trained yourself to always find peace, always find calm, always find tranquility, never jump to a reaction in these moments, and you actually trained it, not just I tried it once, man. No, I'm just an overthinker. No, that's rubbish. That's what I call LT, lazy thinking. It's a lazy thinking mentality. But you actually trained yourself to develop that muscle that no matter what the external circumstances, I'm going to find that peace and that calm. What you're going to do is then begin to train yourself to slow the internal treadmill down. And when that conveyor belt slows down to 2 mile an hour, you'll have a way of training yourself to slow down. This is something I've done in my own life of quite a few years ago now. It's something that when I'm working with people on my programs, I take them through these practices like heart-led power or giving the gift of love. I take them through these practices that are intended to slow us down. Because like I said to you at the start of this particular episode, everyone's always in a rush. We're always in a rush to be somewhere, to get there. And if you're not in a rush externally, you find a way to be in a rush internally. That's where you're developing some of these traits, because you're fighting a battle that doesn't exist, but you're conjuring it up because that's what you've created in your emotional being to have to spin at that 10 mile an hour. What do you need to do to slow yourself down? How can you slow yourself down? Is it some peaceful walks? Is it yoga? Is it meditation? Is it quiet conversation? You know, there's so many ways that you can do this. I'm not going to be another Google option for you. Matt, what one should I do then? Because ultimately then it's just a technique that I've given you. No, I don't do techniques or coping mechanisms. What I do is I give you the foundations to take control and overcome this. Find the ones that work for you. Try them. Try them all. Find the ones that you feel right about. Because when you can start to play with that tempo a little bit more, it's a little bit like the volume on your radio. Then you know when to turn yourself down. And you know how to turn yourself up when the demands are there, and I need to be at it, I need to be a great parent, I need to be a great partner, a great worker, a great friend, a great member of society. But then I can also slow it down when life requires me to as well. Because I see people who are so demanding of themselves, but they're not demanding in the right ways. They're demanding of themselves just because they've trained themselves to constantly have to do something. If I don't do something, I'm always a worry about, and I have to worry about something, and it damages your quality of life. So what we want to be able to do is be emotionally intelligent here, to understand that no, I'm not going to get caught up in this emotional rush. I'm not prepared to stay caught up in this emotional rush of life. What I'm going to do is start to train myself to slow down. And if you're anything like me, it's blimmin' challenging initially. Challenging. Very challenging. I didn't just one day just flick my fingers and go, right, I'm going to be this peaceful, calm being. No, you see my energy, you see my passion, you see what comes through me. This was a part of me that I had to train greatly. And I do now. I have ways that I slow myself down because I have so many demands in my life. Things that people don't even see. I've got demands, I've got things going on, I've got challenges, obstacles every single day, especially with what I do. So I find ways to slow that tempo down. So I dictate my life. I dictate the tempo of my emotions and what I feel. And I'm not just caught up in this Groundhog Day where one day feels like the next, feels like the next, feels like the next. Then any moment I get a breather, my mind's still spinning. I'm now conjuring up a random symptom or a random feeling and fighting in my head. Oh, what is that? That's just because you're caught up in the emotional rush. I think you would agree. It's about time we change that. And so if this particular podcast resonated with you, good. Let it be a catalyst for you now to go and do something about it. You know, in June, when you'll be listening to this, I have just reopened some one-to-one work with me. I haven't done this for months and months for the simple reason that I've had so much focus on my life empowerment program that I wanted to, just before summer, work with a few people one-to-one to help them create those shifts. If you're listening to this and you want to apply for that, by all means reach out. If you want further ways that you can implement some of these strategies that I talk about, let me know. Let me know. Don't let this be a nice listening. Let this be a catalyst for you to create some shifts in your life. Especially because I'm sure you've got coming up. I'm sure you've got demands coming up. I'm sure you've got things coming up, whether it's your kids about to finish for the 6 weeks holidays, whether it's you've got a summer holiday you want to plan for, whether it's, you've got things coming up, weddings and christenings and all these things these times of years. We've all got things coming up. What's your ship going to be? Unsturdy in stormy seas? Or a pillar of strength, a pillar of peace, a pillar of calm, no matter what the environment is, no matter what waves crash up against the side? Because for your sake, I hope it's the latter. A short, sharp episode for you today. I hope it served you well. I look forward to seeing and serving you soon. It is time to elevate your mind. Take care.